Morning. This is the Rice Creek Watershed District Manager's regular meeting for Wednesday, February 11th, 2026. All of the managers are present with the exception of President Bradley, who is a previous notice of his absence. And so that brings us to the open mic comment section. And any Rice Creek Watershed resident may address the board in his or her individual capacity for up to 3 minutes on a matter not on the agenda. Speakers are requested to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record. Additional comments may be solicited and accepted in writing. Generally, the Board of Managers will not take official action on items discussed at this time, but may refer the matter to staff for a future report or direct that the matter be scheduled for an upcoming agenda. Is there anyone here in the audience who wishes to speak today to the Board of Managers?
President Waller, just to be clear, that's for something that's not on the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you're here for an item on the agenda, that's we'll do that at that time. And nobody in the audience, I reckon. Eh?
Nope.
Online.
Nope.
Good,
Online is not an option.
In that case, let's set the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions, managers, to the agenda?
Staff have no adjustments.
And no adjustments from the staff.
I move the agenda as
Under the
presented.
consent, so, yes.
Mr. Chair?
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. The agenda is set. So now for the approval of the minutes of the January 28th meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I would move approval of the minutes for January 28, 2026 regular meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now for the consent agenda.
Yes, President Waller,
Patrick?
yeah, Board of Managers, staff have one permit application for your consideration today. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions? Any questions from the audience? Nope. Well, in that case, I have a motion for it. I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as outlined in the table of contents in accordance to the Rice Creek Watershed District Engineers' findings and recommendations dated for February 4th, and this is permit number 25-123.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That brings us to the program cost share applications. Molly, I reckon it's your turn.
Morning, Board of Managers. For your consideration today, we have 2 water quality grant applications outlined in the consent agenda, R26-01 and R26-02. R26-01 is a residential project in Roseville, including 2 rain gardens and a porous paver retrofit to a driveway. This project was moved by the CAC with recommendation for approval with unanimous agreement. And then R26-02 is a shoreline restoration and stabilization project on a public property on the south end of Bald Eagle Lake in White Bear Township. This project was also recommended by the CAC with unanimous approval.
Managers, any comments, questions?
Mr. Chair, I would move project number R26-01 and project number R26-02, approving the consent agenda as outlined in the table of contents in accordance with Rice Creek Watershed District Outreach and Grant Technicians' recommendations dated February 3rd, 2026.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Then moving on to the public hearing.
Do you need to close? Oh, you got the.
We're going to close the meeting for a moment, but we're going to keep the meeting open for the public hearing. Anyways, this is a February the 11th, 2026, public hearing on the 2026 Rice Creek Watershed District Stormwater Management Grant Program. The regular board meeting is now recessed, and the public hearing is open on the Rice Creek Watershed District's proposal selection of projects for funding through the district's Stormwater Management Grant Program. In accordance with state law, notice of this hearing was published in two successive weeks in the St. Paul Pioneer Press and mailed to all cities within the Watershed District, as well as the district's 4 counties. I ask that those of you in attendance hold your comments until your turn to speak. The purpose of this hearing is to receive comments from the public on projects the board is considering for cost share assistance in the cities of Arden Hills, Shoreview, New Brighton, and Lino Lakes. Before the district can provide funds for the capital work of these applicants, state law requires that the Board of Managers hold a public hearing, receive public comments, and make a judgment that each selected project is a sound and cost-effective project to help fulfill our water resource goals. First, I will ask Will Roach, good morning, Will, a water technician and inspector, to give a brief presentation on the proposed projects. When his remarks are completed, the floor will be open for any members of the public who wish to address the board. Remote participation is for monitoring only. Though, for those of you joining us in person, please come forward to the podium, speak clearly, state your name and your address for the record. If you have a written copy of your statement or any other documents that you wish to submit, please inform the board. The district staff will provide direction on how to submit materials for the record. During the public comment, managers are welcome to ask questions of the commenters to clarify their remarks. I will also may ask Mr. Roach or representatives of the project's applicants to respond to any technical questions raised. Managers will hold their own comments about the project until the public hearing is closed. At that time, the board will have an opportunity to discuss the projects. The board action to select projects for funding is tentatively scheduled for our February 25th, 2026 regular meeting. So, Will, in that case, will you like to proceed?
Yes, thank you, Manager Waller, and good morning, Board of Managers. My presentation up here. There we go. Yes, so as noted, this is our annual public hearing for the Stormwater Management Grant Program as required by state law. The applications were reviewed by the CAC at last week's regularly scheduled meeting. The CAC authorized staff to present this to the board for these applications to the board for further consideration. Just a quick presentation rundown. We're going over just the overview of the grant program goals and program guidelines for this year, then the application summaries, and then lastly next steps. So the purpose of the Stormwater Management Grant Program is to foster collaboration with our municipal partners in exploring both new stormwater management BMPs as well as retrofit opportunities for existing BMPs. District helps, the grant program helps defray local costs in the planning and development of these BMPs, and we also partner with our municipal partners on providing education and outreach materials regarding these approved projects. So for the grant program guidelines for this year, this was the first year that we had the pre-application meeting as a firm requirement. In past program years, it has been encouraged. This was just to help do some preliminary discussions with our partners regarding projects, as well as scouting of program eligibility for these further proposals. applications were due by December 30th. And then another change this year was the board authorized an increase in the program budget from $300,000 to $400,000. These funds come from the district's ad valorem tax levy. Our cost share requirements typically not to exceed $500,000 with a maximum of $100,000 awarded per project. There are certain special funding stipulations for stormwater reuse projects, though we did not receive any reuse applications this year. And then applicants are also required by 50% cost match for their projects. As mentioned while I noted, we did have 4 communities submit a total of 6 applications this year. Those being from Martin Hills, New Brighton, Lina Lakes, and Shoreview, for a total cost share ask of $499,616.50. And then just a map here of those project locations. Getting into the application summaries, the first proposal is from Martin Hills. As part of a larger road reconstruction project, the city would be looking to install or construct a stormwater pond on the south end of Carter Lake. This would provide sediment and phosphorus reductions from prior to stormwater runoff reaching Carter Lake. With the targeted water bodies being Carter Lake and Valentine Lake, with the city has a estimated total project cost of $174,583 and has a requested grant of $87,291.50. For the water quality benefits, approximately just under 1,600 pounds of total suspended solid removal and 5 pounds of total phosphorus removal would be removed annually through this BMP. So this is an approximate drawing provided by the city of the shape and location of that pond. I will note, it is flagged here on the image as well, that purple line does represent a wetland boundary that's been previously delineated. The city is aware of that boundary, and as they are continuing to work through their design process, looking to figure out a final pond configuration to either avoid impact or keep impacts within the de minimis amount allowed. And then the other Arden Hills application is the installation of 2 sump manholes and sample baffles on Carp Lake Circle and Carp Lake Drive. This would be done under the same road project as the proposed stormwater pond in the previous slides. Again, the target water bodies here being Carp Lake and Valentine Lake, as well as an adjacent wetland area along Carp Lake Drive. City has an estimated project cost of $61,105 and are asking for a grant of $30,552.50. So the sample baffles would provide an additional 514 pounds of total suspended solid removal for Park Lake, as well as over 1,600 pounds of suspended solid removal for that adjacent wetland area. Switch over. So the image on the left is that proposed location to Park Lake, Park Lake Circle, the area in red, circled in red being the sample with sump and sample location. And then on the right being Park Lake Drive, and again, will be the location circled in red. With the, and then you can also see the southern tip of that wetland area to the north there. The next application would be for the city of Lino Lakes. City is requesting grant funding for the purchase of a regenerative air sweeper for the implementation of an enhanced street sweeping plan. City currently owns a Pelican model mechanical sweeper, so our regenerative air sweeper will be used in tandem with that. And would be used on with a focus area of subdivisions with developed tree canopies, areas where there are stormwater catch basins without a constructed pre-treatment structure in place, or areas that match both. City has calculated these focus areas would come out about 28.2 miles focused sweeping. Targeted water bodies being the Rice Creek chain of lakes, Peltier, Brown, Baldwin, and Bald Eagle. The total project cost is estimated to be $425,000 for the purchase of that sweeper, and the city is requesting a $100,000 cost share. And as noted there, the water quality benefit would be the annual removal of just under 2,000 pounds of phosphorus annually. And then this is a map the city has provided showing those targeted areas for additional sweeping. Next project here would be for New Brighton. It's for the Knollwood Pond overflow. So this would be a flood control project that would be looking to install a primary outlet for the stormwater pond, which currently does not allow for adequate low flow protection from the existing residential structures around the pond. Just kind of in reviewing the property maps, several of these homes, majority of these homes, I should say, were constructed between around 1940 to early 1960s, where low floor bacteria was probably much more lax. Targeted water body here would be Rice Creek as well as the pond. The city has a total project cost estimate of $250,000 and a requested grant of $100,000. And then as noted there, this proposed pipe system would reduce the high water level of the pond from an elevation of 887.93 feet to 887.15, so well below the low openings of those residential structures. And then this is a preliminary layout of the pond, of the pipe location provided by the city. So the pipe would cross over from Mounds View and also run parallel to County Road. The city is working in collaboration with both Mounds View as well as the county for approvals on this. Next is the Shoreview Target Pond improvements. So the city is looking to upgrade an existing sand filter to an iron hand sand filter by removing the existing filter material and replacing it with a iron enhanced media, as well as some other general improvements to that. Targeted water body is Valentine Lake. The city has a total project cost of $163,545 with a cost share ask of $81,772.50. So the sand filter enhancements, they are anticipating 6.4 pounds of total phosphorus removal annually. And then the area here, show the location of that filter materia, that sand filter location, is the southeast water of the intersection of Lexington and Red Fox Road. And then the last project here is Shoreview in 2026 storm improvements. So here, the city would be looking to replace existing portions of existing roadway asphalt with permeable pavers to allow stormwater to infiltrate through this underlying material and reduce runoff to Island Lake. The city has an estimated total project cost of $570,000 and was requesting a grant of $100,000 to do so. With water quality benefits being just over 10,000 cubic feet of stormwater storage, in addition to phosphorus removals. The city has expressed an interest in this project as they are looking to do reductions in order to help improve quality of Island Lake and work further towards the delisting efforts associated with that. Also note the city does have a fair amount of experience with similar projects as they completed 17 other similar works in the past. These are the portions of roadways that will be replaced on Milton Street as well as Randy Avenue. So the Milton Street being on the west side of Island Lake, and then Randy Avenue being on the northeast side of the lake. So as noted, staff went over these applications with CAC last week, as well as collecting CAC's review scores and calculated out the weighted average scores of these applications. Lino Lakes was ranked, received a score of 92.6. Arden Hills, the Carth Pond project, it scored 82.5. Shoreview's Burmese Pavers scored 82.3. Shoreview's Ironman and Sand Filter Pond and the Arden Hills Sapple Dapple projects both received a score of 81.6. And then the Knollwood Pond received a score of 63.2. So as noted earlier in the presentation, total requested funds do exceed the budget by almost $100,000. So keeping the project ranking in mind, staff has prepared a potential funding recommendation for the board to consider. Again, no decision on funding needs to be made today. Here, Lino Lakes being the highest ranked project, staff recommending full funding for the two Arden Hills projects because they would be done under the same broader project. Staff does recommend a slight reduction to the Carth Pond application. That would be so as to keep total funds awarded to the city for that one project within the $100,000 maximum allowance. The Shoreview applications that scored kind of in the middle, both of those would be recommended fundings of $75,000 each, and then New Brighton would be awarded $50,000. As far as next steps go, so as noted, final board action will be at the February 25th meeting. So that would be consideration and further discussion of CAC staff and Houston's reviews of the applications, as well as that approval of resolution for funding. And then staff would ask direction from the board at this time regarding funding if they would like staff to prepare potential other options for that February 25th meeting. That I am happy to take any questions that the board may have.
Managers, do you have any questions for Will?
Well, I would just note that both Manager Waller and I were at the CAC meeting and reviewed these at the same time that the Citizens Advisory Committee did. So we've seen this presentation twice and of course have the packets. I do have a question about Carth Lake though. I know in past we've talked about that it's a closed watershed. So is it a built outlet to Valentine Lake? Or I don't quite understand why it would impact Valentine Lake if it's a closed watershed.
Yes, so if I can,
Please, David.
perhaps we do have a representative from the city here as well, but the city is undertaking a project to retrofit their pumping operations there too. And so currently the city goes out periodically when the lake does fill up to a certain degree. They have a permit with the DNR to pump the lake down to Valentine. There's not a natural outflow to Valentine. And so they are currently working on improving that pumping system to automate that system so it's more efficient to pump directly to Valentine.
And that's in addition to this, to these two projects.
So yeah, it's an overall big city project,
Okay.
and these are small components of that larger project.
Is the representative from New Brighton wish to comment? Arden Hills, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
Yep.
Please identify yourself for the record, sir.
David Swearingen, I am the Public Works Director, City Engineer for the City of Arden Hills. Thank you, Board Managers, for allowing me to come up here to speak. As well, nice presentation. It is our larger 2026 PMP street utility project. I guess to add a little bit of context of how we approach our street and utility projects is we try to have them all encompassing. We want to come in, we don't want to be back for the next 20 years. So yes, it is one project, but we have multiple pieces of that. We could separate out the project to try to get a little bit more, or like have it viewed as two separate projects, I guess, but we are doing it as one, and as David had indicated, we are doing also Carthlake pump improvements, and I appreciate the cost share that was included in the budget for the Watershed earlier for this year. So the other approach we have with Carthlake specifically, if you're aware that the Watershed did do there was a Southwest Urban Lakes study done in 2009. So these are BMPs that were identified within that study. So we really are trying to tackle every single BMP while we're in this neighborhood. The BMP number 1 is actually a phase 2. That's the pond. This BMP phase BMP 1 is the pond. This phase 2, we actually did a project back in 2019, 2020 where we utilized this grant program to address some severe runoff erosion from private property upstream. So we actually got an easement from the private property to go in and do to mitigate that erosion. That was considered phase 1. This is phase 2 of that BMP. And then we are replacing a failing retaining wall near the pump, which is identified as BMP number 6 within that study. And as I mentioned, that phase 1 addressed BMP number 5 and BMP number 7. So we're really taking that study and trying to tackle these projects. And this grant program has been a real big factor in getting that council support and approval for doing these projects. So appreciate the past grant funding for it, and appreciate the consideration for today as well. So that's my little spiel, so I'll stand for any questions if you have any.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. That's helpful.
Yes, and thank you for pointing out that this was based on a study the Watershed did 17 years ago, and you haven't put it on the shelf and forgot about it.
Exactly.
That often happens. It just becomes a dust collector, but it's good to hear that. Thank you for coming to the meeting.
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other the gentlemen from the other cities that have comments on their projects?
I think they're gonna hear that. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's my time to come up here, but I just
Yeah,
want to
come
talk
on.
about the Nolan Pond a little bit.
Step up. Put your name and your address for the record.
Yeah,
here for
good
the-
morning. My name is Brian Ludwig, and I live I own a house of 2605 County Road H, New Brighton. And I just kind of wanted to mention, I spoke to Will a couple weeks ago and stuff like that, but I just wanted to kind of voice my concerns about the Nolan Pond, the runoff, like what's kind of happening. I just feel like the system isn't working anymore, and like every time it rains, the water runs off the streets, like County Road H, no one driving, it runs and it just accumulates in this one area, that it's just really not working anymore. The water gets pushed onto my property, it comes over, it's been up in 2017, it was on the foundation of my house. And then we had kind of a drought era, went for like 3 or 4 years. And then the last 2 seasons, you guys well know, it's been raining quite a bit. I just feel like so every time it rains now, like if you get a 2 or 3 inch rain, the water really comes up. And I have pictures to show all this stuff, and it's just like, it's basically unlivable. It's so frustrating to me and my wife. We're outdoor people, we love our backyard, we pay taxes, things like that, and it's just, I wish something could be done, because it started like in 2017, and now it's 2026, and the problem's still continuing, and I just think there's so much sediment that comes in, and just all the vegetation that has grown up in the pond, and really no maintenance has been done on it over the years, and it's just, the system, to me, isn't working anymore. And I can't go out and enjoy my backyard. I have to worry about rainfall all the time. Milwaukee last year had like 8 or 9 inches. And if that ever happened here, it's done. My house is completely done. It's gonna be wiped out. And that's just the way I feel. And I just wish something could be done, because it's been going on for a while. And like, I'm so concerned about rainfall now. I watch the weather constantly and things like that. And so I just want to voice my opinion about that and stuff. And I just wish something could be done to alleviate some of the problem with all the runoff. I just think there's too much water going into that one area, and it doesn't accept it anymore. So that's kind of what I want to say, but thank you. And I do have a lot of pictures too, if I could show anybody sometime, or like what's actually happening. It's better than me trying to stand up here and talk. I'd rather just show you what's happening, but.
If you brought the photographs with you today,
I have them on my phone, yes.
oh, well, then you could share them with the administrator, Nick, after the meeting, please. And they'll figure out what kind of electronic transfer it does to go to the district's record.
Okay. Can I do that?
Take a look at it.
Yeah,
After the meeting today or something?
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll try to make it as short as
I
possible.
would appreciate that. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, we've had comments from the public on the proposed projects now, so if there's anyone else that wishes to speak here, nobody? And so there being no further comment from the public, I close the public hearing and open this matter for board discussion. Managers, you wish to discuss this, or now or next? We're going to discuss it, of course, next week. I should say next meeting, which isn't next week, it's 2 weeks away. Any other comments?
Chair Waller.
No.
Just noting what Will had shared earlier, if you have any funding ideas or you have comments about the way staff presented that, obviously they can just present that again at the next meeting, but input in regards to that I think would be helpful.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Marcy.
I would say that it's good to note, as Will had earlier, that prior to this year, we had $300,000 of ad valorem money set aside for these projects, and have increased it now with an additional $100,000. So we're up to 4. It shows us that there continues to be need for this and interest by our city partners. So that's excellent to see. And I think, I look forward to discussing further on these funding, the way we can get some things funded, so that all these projects can work. And perhaps between now and our meeting, and I think you've done this in the past, certainly contact with the cities to see if the project is doable with the suggested amounts. If it can still happen with the reduced request.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick question.
Yes.
Will, can you put up the slide with the recommended funding? I didn't see that in here in the 100+ pages identified for just this item. I didn't see this cost breakdown in here. Nick, you want us to discuss this now, or it would have been helpful to have it ahead of time in the packet, so
Sure.
we could have been prepared to discuss, and then in comparison with the scoring that the process kind of brought forth. So, I mean, I'm happy to dialogue this. I think it might make more sense to dialogue it in a workshop, since we're just seeing the information right now, and also I'm sure Chair Bradley has comments on it as well, and it would be helpful for me to hear his input on this
Yeah.
as well.
Nick?
Thank you, Chair Waller, Manager Robertson. Very good point. This is a public hearing, so
Mhm.
to hear whatever the public might have, and my intent was not to rush the process or
Got it.
what have you, and here it's foreshadowing of what staff might bring forward. So outside of what Will showed, if the board has any further direction at this time, that would be great. Otherwise, that full dialogue can take place at the next meeting, so that they can be awarded. I think the key point is the board has set a structure. We have a $400,000 limit. Will showed a way in which district staff believes it might be best allocated to honor each of the projects in some way based on the ranking that cumulative ranking across all the individuals that review them.
Yep, I understand that. I would also ask then, when we do bring this back to the workshop, I would like to hear just kind of what the byproduct is of the resident from New Brighton's issues with flooding on his property, if there's some kind of just direction or resolve around that, because we hear a lot from residents throughout the district, flooding issues that may or may not be the result of projects or maintenance or whatever it is, so I guess I
Yep.
would just like to hear some follow-up to what comes of that as well.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, just to be clear, this is not at a workshop, this is at the next board meeting.
Yes, it will be at the
Sure.
next board meeting, but nevertheless, I expect we'll have some discussion there. And I also would like to see that the staff takes a look at the project in respect to this gentleman's flooding issue and see how that relates.
Mhm.
We're gonna, I don't know if he's even examined the project himself, but it's available for him to look at, so he has an understanding what they're going to do and whether that has an impact on his situation for flooding. That's, it might be it might look like it's gonna do something, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but, and we'll have to
Yeah.
look at that flooding issue again, then if it doesn't solve,
Yep.
help or
Yes.
do enough.
Chair Waller,
Yes.
understood, and, manage expectations, or what exactly the technical detail of the project will
Yeah.
produce on the landscape.
I'd point out that we only had 400,000 scheduled for this, and as Manager Marcy said, we upped it in the budget, and we'll be looking at the budget again. But every city that applied received some consideration. Maybe not fully what they wanted, but nobody was cut. In other words, we didn't say only these three or these two or something like that. Everybody got a little help. So with that, anything else, managers?
No, sir.
Well, then we'll adjourn this public hearing and proceed to the regular meeting again, which brings us to items for board action. Number 1 here. This is the annual designation of depository and newspapers. Nick?
Yes. Chair Waller, Board of Managers, annually, the district is to designate its official depository in its newspaper. Staff are recommending no changes to that. I will make note that the district, outside of its designation of St. Paul Pioneer Press as its official newspaper, it does utilize and augment with local papers when that's possible. Those smaller papers have seen some, closings, or they're disappearing a little bit here and there. But as much notice as possible, but we do honor our St. Paul Pioneer Press. So with that, staff would recommend that PMA, Financial Network, along with St. Paul Pioneer Press, are the entities to designate in each category.
So, Mr. Chair, I would move to designate PMA Financial Network LLC administering the 4M funds with U.S. Bank as the financial institution as the official depository of the Rice Creek Watershed District, and that the St. Paul Pioneer Press as the official newspaper of the Rice Creek Watershed District.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Number 2, Jones Lake Outlet Modifications, Dredging and Restoration Project Environmental Assessment Worksheet Findings and Fact. David?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair and Board of Managers. You may remember back in December on the 10th, we had the board consider the environmental assessment worksheet for the Jones Lake project. The board did a review and approved that for publication in the EQB Monitor at that time, and it was published on December 23rd of 2025. That opened a 30-day comment period for the public, and it was open from December 23rd until January 22nd for public comment. We did receive comments from 4 agencies. That would be the Department of Health, Met Council, the Pollution Control Agency, and the Department of Natural Resources. Our district engineer, Houston Engineering, did prepare responses to the comments received, as well as received kind of a back and forth in communication with our program managers at the district staff level. When we reviewed those comments and given back, Houston did prepare the declaration for the board consideration, and we're looking to have that adopted by the board at this time. I'll note that Rinke Noonan also did review that and reviewed the finding of fact as well. We are hoping that Chris is going to be able to walk you through the comments that Houston prepared. He's sick this morning, but he is online, and so we'll see if he's able to still be with us this morning. Chris, are you there?
I see.
Chair Waller, I do think it takes a minute, as we saw with Wills, for the transition, but if you'd give it a
Sure.
moment, we will see.
We're patient.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Here's Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Can we
Board
have
Manager?
increased audio? on
You
that?
speak, could you turn up the audio a little, Chris? My hearing's not so good.
Yeah.
Okay, is this
There,
at
very
all
good.
better?
Very
Yeah.
good.
Okay, great. Yeah, Board of Managers, sorry again, I can't make it here today. Definitely did not want to get others sick here. I'll go over briefly here the comments. I'm just going to try to generally summarize the comments on our responses here. If you look at page 212 of the packet, I'll start there with our table of Appendix A. The first comment that we got was from the Minnesota Department of Health. When they're doing these reviews, their primary area of interest is in drinking water protection, well protection, and so they provided a comment about reviewing the proximity to the New Brighton emergency well, and our response there was that we did we are aware of that well, and we are coordinating with the city of New Brighton, who is a project partner, on proximity and how that might affect the project. Second comment is from the Met Council.
Chris,
They
make it a little, could you turn that volume up a little more, please, or you're fading?
All right, I'll try to hold my microphone a little closer to my mouth. Does that help a little bit?
Marvelous. Very good, very good.
All right. So the next comment was from the Met Council. The Met Council basically identified that the EAW is complete and they had no concerns. So that was an easy one to address. And then we got 2 comments from the MPCA. The first one was really more of a, I guess, a language comment. That was fairly low significance regarding TMDL. Second one was noting that County Ditch 2 is actually listed as an impaired water for a couple of different impairments. So important to note that with respect to the environment, but really not impactful to the project itself. Then the final set of comments came from Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. Important to note with regard to the DNR comments is that the DNR is a regulating entity for the project. We are needing to get a public waters work permit for the project. And so any of the comments that they do have on the project with regard to environmental effects really get addressed through the DNR's permitting process itself. And so we did provide that as part of a response to several of the comments that were provided by the DNR. Again, very important to note that with respect to their comments, that the DNR's comments will need to be addressed fully within that permit. So the first comment I'll note is with regard to the excavation and the extent of excavation. DNR specifically referenced Minnesota Rule 6115-0200, subpart 1, which identifies some goals of the DNR with regard to public waters, including to preserve the natural character of public waters and their shorelands. And then they also provided a comment regarding a concern of the amount of data used to develop the depth of excavation that we described. So with regard to the preserving the natural character, we did note that the lake is currently not representative of a natural ecosystem. It's been heavily modified around the lake and the landscape upstream of the lake and the outlet to the lake. And so there really isn't a, there's been more than 100 years of non-natural existence of the ecosystem. And you know, what we're trying to do with our project is try to replicate historic conditions to the degree possible. We also noted that we have completed extensive analysis to determine the approximation of conditions that existed 70 years ago or so before the more rapid upstream development occurred, and we identified a number of these sources. And this is all dialogue we've had previously with other members of DNR staff. And another thing important to note is that the DNR does have multiple divisions within it, and the comments coming from here aren't necessarily reflective of the dialogue that we've had with other staff members within DNR, just because there are many portions of the DNR staffing that we do have to engage with a project of this size and complexity. So the next comment was regarding historic aerial photography. We've utilized this to try to determine what representative conditions were pre-development in this area. The DNR referenced a 1940s aerial photo, which presumably showed less open water area in Jones Lake. We noted in our response to this comment that the photo that was referenced was taken during a drought, and that it was preceded by the Dust Bowl years, which had prolonged effect on the water levels in this area. And that would be an explanation why the 40s photo showed less hydrology here compared to the later 1957 photo, which we rely heavily on in terms of determining where that the extensive open water was historically. Then moving on to the next comment number 7. DNR had additional comments regarding excavation, namely the purposes of the excavation, and they identify that flood control is not part of the rules, public purposes for excavation, though they did identify that sediment removal to eliminate source of nutrients and contaminants is. We noted in our response that sediment removal is one of the large goals of this project, that we are intending to remove sediment sourcing into the Jones Lake from upstream Watershed, besides removing some of the organic sediments in Jones Lake that contributes toward internal loading within the lake. So we're actually making a substantial water quality improvement with regard to this project. This is something that was noted within the AAW, that the project does have benefits. Next comment, number 8, is with regard to storm bounce, meaning how high the water gets from the start of a significant rainfall to the peak elevation of a significant rainfall. And DNR referenced Rice Creek Rule C, and also noted that there are more larger concerns about changes in hydrology as a result of the project. Important to note here that we are proposing to change the hydrologic patterns here with the project in order to be able to provide more flood storage in this area. We have a greater discussion in our response about District Rule C, where we, in that rule, talk about the amount of bounce that's allowed in a given wetland with regard to the susceptibility it has to environmental conditions. And it's important to note that this is a heavily modified system, and therefore it is not as susceptible to more significant changes in hydrology. And based on those conclusions, the project does meet Rice Creek rule requirements under Rule C. And you know, we are really trying to attempt to restore conditions, restore some of the hydrology that's existed in the basin that has now been diminished by the amount of sedimentation that has occurred in the basin. I'll move on to comment number 9 regarding flood reductions. They indicated that we have not identified specific flood reductions in terms of a number of habitable structures removed from the floodplain. Our response here is that you know, we are reducing flood risk here in multiple different ways, and it's been identified in several prior reports that we've provided regarding this project. We've done extensive analysis to this effect and have identified significant decreases in the peak flooding that will occur over Interstate 35W once the full project build-out occurs. But in our comment, we do note that flood risk is just one of multiple project purposes. Again, we are aiming to reduce nutrients in the lake and downstream from the lake and improve wetland habitat. Comment number 10 from the DNR says that they did not find supporting evidence that the wetland function will be restored, as we have indicated that would be within the EAW. We did note in our response that the project will be removing invasive species, household waste, and construction waste from the basin. These are things that have all been identified within this lake right now, in addition to decreasing the phosphorus loading, and that we will be providing more detail as we move forward, again, with DNR permitting process. Comment number 11 from DNR was noting that increases in the flood elevation greater than half a foot require a special commissioner approval. Our response is that this comment is noted. We did have prior discussion with other DNR staff with regard to the flood elevations and how that works within FEMA flood management requirements. Then comment number 12 talks about other alternatives, and it indicated that the EAW does not explain what alternatives were evaluated or the analysis. And our response here again is that we've done extensive alternative analysis over the last 13 years. Again, we've had, I believe, 5 different substantial reports that have led up to this point in developing this project. And we have had lots of dialogue already with agencies, and we will be providing a full accounting of these alternative analyses when we do apply for that public waters permit from the DNR. And then the final comment, number 13 from the DNR, was regarding state listed species. They had a concern about the number of species that were listed in the EAW, and that there was a change in the listing of the rusty patch bumblebee. Our note in our response is that we did do a review and had a minor correction of the number of species noted within the Ramsey County information from the 2024 layer. And we also note the change in the listing about the rusty patch bumblebee, although it is something that we would need to be considering regardless, and that these are, again, things that will be addressed in our permit application. That wraps up the comments from the DNR, and certainly I can address any questions you might have on these comments.
Managers, do you have any questions for Chris?
So to the comments from DNR, are you surprised by them? Anything that you went, oh, we didn't think of that, or it looks like your responses indicate that yes, it's noted, and we either have it in the EAW or it is available.
Manager Wynett, Board of Managers, yeah, the comments, the only surprise I would say with the comments is that there are a number of these things that we've already discussed with some of the other DNR staff. But other than that, there's nothing that really triggered a significant concern to us, because these are all things that would be addressed anyway through that public waters permit process.
Nick?
Yes. Chair Waller, Board of Managers, yeah, I'm not surprised by the comments, my personal opinion, I guess. Obviously, your engineer just spoke to them. It is the intent of the process to uncover environmental issues that each entity sees, and they do that in their own best practice to do so. And as Chris is noting, and the conclusion of law in your resolution on page 211 states that some of these issues that are being raised, number 2 under conclusion of law, speaks to the point that there are protocols, permitting in place that are going to address these issues that are being raised. So there's nothing that we're aware of that falls short of the adequacy of the current framework of permitting, et cetera, that would cover what the issues are that are being raised. And Chair Waller, perhaps John has something further on that.
Mr. Cole, good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So we are making the decision today under Environmental Quality Board regulations. Those are found in Part 4410 of state regulations. Your decision is on the timeline required by the rules, and there is a criteria that I think is specifically relevant to the DNR comments, and that is you may consider the extent to which the environmental effects are subject to mitigation by ongoing public regulatory authority. And so I think it's the staff's conclusion here that the majority of substantive comments are subject to subsequent regulation. We do have to go through the DNR permitting process. And so part of the basis of the staff recommendation that you adopt a negative declaration on the need for an environmental impact statement is that literally all of the comments, especially those of substance from the DNR, are previously discussed with DNR staff at the regulatory level. This may not have been communicated to their environmental review staff when they made their comments. And then all of those issues are subject to DNR regulatory guidance and control. So we believe that anything that is addressed in the comments will be mitigated by or addressed to the satisfaction of the agency through the permitting program.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Cove, managers? David, do you have anything else to say this morning?
I think that's it.
In that case, then I'll make the motion to, for the Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers negative EIS declaration, findings of fact, conclusion of law and order. I'll read the order. Based on the above findings of fact and conclusion and the entire record of this matter, the Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers hereby makes negative declaration on the need for environmental impact statement. The EIS is not required for the Jones Lake Outlet Modification, Dredging, and Restoration Project in Ramsey County, Minnesota. Any findings that might properly be termed conclusions and any conclusions that might properly be termed findings are hereby adopted as such on this 11th day of February 2026.
I would second that, Mr. Chair.
Chair Waller,
Yes.
if I could, would you please authorize the administrator and the board president to sign as part of the motion?
As part of my motion, I will authorize the board president and the administrator to sign as it says at the bottom here. That's the document.
And my second includes that.
So
Thank you.
that's done. Any discussion, managers? In that case, all in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chair?
Yes,
One question before we move on to this one. Was the work that Houston did on this part of the MPCA grant?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
thank you. Number 3, memorials to the Rice Creek Watershed District. Nick?
Yes, Chair Waller, Board of Managers, the district has been informed of the passing, as you might have called, of Gary Kracharek, who was a member of our CAC. He is fondly remembered by past staff and managers, and his obituary includes the opportunity for those grieving his passing to issue memorials to Rice Creek Watershed District along with other interests he had. With that, the district is best positioned to set up the framework by which it will receive memorials. That is the purpose of this here. There is a proposed motion for the resolution at the bottom of page 233. I'll note that staff has developed materials for the, I'll say, the social side, the relationship side with Gary's wife, and to inform her of anything the district does receive. Then subsequently, at a future meeting, for purpose of the accounting and the record, we will present to you what was received, and then close out, if you will, the memorials.
I'll move that the resolution 2026-02, Rice Creek Watershed District Board of Managers, Kracharek, Krejcarek, memorial donations.
I'll second that.
Any discussion, managers?
So do we need to read the
No.
resolution?
I suppose it is better, I suppose, is where, let's see, whereas the Rice Creek Watershed District has designated a beneficiary memorial donations from the estate of the former Citizens Advisory Committee member Gary Kurjarek. And whereas the Board of Managers of the Rice Creek Watershed District recognizes, acknowledges the donations as furthering the public purpose of the watershed district. Therefore, the board authorizes the receipt and deposit of such funds, and further, at such date, later date, as a full accounting of the donated funds is possible, the board directs the treasurer and the staff to provide the final accounting for the approval of the board, and further, unless conditioned upon specific use furthering public purposes of watershed district, the board shall, at the time of final accounting, designate how much funds shall be used. This is a roll call vote. Manager Bradley is absent. Manager Robertson?
Aye.
Manager Waller? Yes. Manager Whining?
Aye.
This passes. And now, the next business is the treasurer with the check register.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of check register dated February 11th, 2026, in the amount of $252,912.98, prepared by Redpath and Company.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That brings us to items of discussion. The engineer's timeline updates. Chris, do you have anything to add today, or?
Nope, nothing to add.
Thank you. That brings us to administrator updates.
Thank you, Chair Waller. Just a couple here. Yesterday was our city-county partner meeting. It was, I'd say, well attended. We appreciate our partners taking part of their day to join us. I'll note that on Monday, the managers considered our lobbying efforts. You reviewed that Park Street proposal, and obviously your consensus was not to proceed. I'll note that I did receive an email from New Brighton staff in regards to this, and they put forth that maybe the board would be willing to consider it if the cities came to help pay for this lobbying effort. They obviously, as staff, they can't volunteer the city council's position, but he felt he communicated, this is Craig, that he would bring it forth for their consideration at a future meeting. Upon receiving that, I did reach out to the city of Roseville, our other partner on it. They noted a willingness to bring this forth to their own city council, in that recognize the past resolutions that the city had passed in favor of it, et cetera, and the divided amount being what he thought reasonable. Of course, this is just informational, open, asking the board to be open to future consideration, and staff will see what the cities bring forth in response. And as usual, there's no promises. I don't know what our state elected folks will think of our project, and potentially we have a need for a sustained effort in future years. So just a simple update there. The regulatory program is undertaking some outreach efforts on behalf of the district to make sure the program is strong. I would, if the chair would allow it, for Patrick to give a little bit about that.
Patrick?
Yes, Board of Managers. So in 2 weeks, we're hosting, I guess, an outreach event for essentially folks that have gone through the permit process before and our partners and stakeholders. So we're hosting an event. We're going to get some feedback on what folks value about water resources, what they're concerned about, and directly tying that to our regulatory program, how we're doing in that. Are we accomplishing the goals of the district? Do they have feedback they'd like to provide. Are there other considerations that we aren't currently doing in the rules or policies? A whole litany of questions, and I'm very much looking forward to it. We're going to have developers, consultants, cities, counties, all sorts of folks. So looking forward to that, and afterwards we'll compile all the data we receive and look forward to bringing summary back to the board just to let you know what we found there, and if that gives us direction for things we want to do in the future in the program or things like that. So.
Managers, do you have any suggestions for Patrick?
Well, a couple questions. Response from the city-county meeting yesterday. What did you hear? Secondly, is this, are you including the CAC in the invitations on this? Because this seems to be part of what maybe the CAC also wants to engage in. And have you ever done this before?
From the city-county partner meeting yesterday, didn't receive any direct feedback, but a number of folks that were there yesterday will be coming to this event based on RSVPs. This is something that's it's not the exact rule language, but it's identified in our watershed management plan. We do our rule updates every couple of years, but we're also supposed to reach out to those folks and get feedback on it. Nick, I see you want to say something here too.
Nick?
Chair Waller, just to note, it's not unusual that we reach out to those who have gone through the Rice Creek permitting system. Houston Engineering has pulled past engineers and applicants. I think this effort that Patrick and the team is leading is a little bit more robust and engaging, similar maybe to our city county meeting where in-person or virtual is available. As far as the CAC, if I could,
please,
Patrick, I'll just note, certainly we could engage them on that. We're looking technically who has gone through the process and to understand it, but what comes of that after the board is apprised of it, maybe if the board wants to ask the CAC to consider those types of comments and that's certainly a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Jess? No comment?
No, sir. As always, just happy to be here.
Chair Waller?
Yes.
Just my last administrator update. I just found out, geez, you no more than make a plan. Minnesota Watershed Summer Tour now. I handed out the budget hearing or the budget schedule. Thank you very much. August 26th is the Minnesota Watershed Summer Tour. I recall Manager Waller, you've been in attendance in the past as well as Manager Wynant. So I will come back and propose an alternative date. Maybe I'll move it from that Wednesday, the 26th, to the Monday, which would be the 24th. But we'll get this calendar arranged and make the adjustments as necessary. So FYI there, and then I'll leave it there. Thank you much.
So to finish this item, Patrick, glad to hear you're having a get-together with all the different parties that are involved in this, and hopefully that you can continue to strengthen the communication between the city's planning and the district so that we don't have another kerfuffle like we did a year and a half ago there in Blaine. So that's an
absolutely
option. The next item on the agenda, the manager's updates. Manager Marcy.
Well, two things. I'd like to compliment the staff on I think a very successful city-county partnership meeting yesterday. I judge the success on the breakout session, or on the time where people are able to do one-on-one conversations, and it was very robust, and lots of folks were connecting with one another. So not only was the information presented well, but also the structure of the meeting, I think, served its purpose. And Manager Waller and I attended the CAC meeting, and I would say I appreciate the intention of the CAC to really be there to advise the board And their request to us is, if you have something for us to take a closer look at, to give you some advice, or give you some community feedback to do so. So I think part of this also, Mr. Chair, is incumbent upon us as a board to figure out what it is that we want the CAC to discuss and to participate in. So, again, kind of another ratchet up of the role of that particular advisory committee. And that's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Jess?
No, apologies, I missed your partnership meeting yesterday. We actually had a legislative reception yesterday with the Chamber of Commerce, so I was hanging out with many of the people that are identified on our little Senate and House district maps yesterday, so apologies for missing that. I'm glad it was well attended and received.
And that leaves me, I did attend the CAC meeting. I think that they should use a little bit of their own imagination as to what to do, as long as it's within the Watershed District Plan. They're, you don't need to be led by the hand of the Board of Managers necessarily. Being that I have had some experience on the CAC, I reckon it's about 8 years total that I've been on that.
Only?
Only 8. And I never had the managers tell me what to do. And we've cleaned a lot of ditches since then, so. The other thing I was gonna get down to was that at the Washington County Consortium, there was a presentation by the St. Anthony Laboratory by the University of Minnesota Rainwater Falls and the intensity of it. And I think it's important to take a look at that, because when I think about water storage and the drainage system not functioning, I think that we are losing a lot of water storage because of backed up systems and over enthusiasm about environmental protections, when we really need to protect the properties and houses of people and make that water go. Remember, water is an impervious surface, just like the desktop is here. So if you fill up the system and not have the drainage systems working to their full capacity, then you lose that storage in these bizarre storms, and you can see the damage that happens with that wonderful pictures we have from 2011 down here in the cars underwater, one of my favorite photographs. And and then the other thing, I made an error last week here at the meeting, and I guess I better correct myself. I couldn't remember the lake I was talking about was Salt, so I went home and got my old original Rice Creek Watershed District plan from
Dated.
July of 1974.
Oh,
Which
my word.
Remember that, Precious?
My parents gave to me as a gift when I
Nope.
came home from the Marine Corps. Can you imagine that? And in December of '74, I had to go to my first Watershed meeting, or January, there with my father. Anyways, I was talking about was what lakes were named in here as for salt problems. And as you can see, I've read this book a couple times. And here's the place I have for salt. And the lake I was trying to remember was Marchand. And that's on the 1022-32 system. And it's named in here. Also Long Lake, Hardwood, and Clearwater Creeks.
For chloride, huh?
Yes. Chloride concentrations in the surface water have increased more than 25% since 1962. And the most severely affected areas being Marchand Lake, Long Lake, Hardwood, and Clearwater Creeks. Let's see Table 13. And it is believed that these high chloride measurements will pose a potential threat to temperature and reoxygenation cycles of lakes as a result of the highway runoff.
Manager,
Whoa.
So, Nick, do you want to straighten me out here?
not all, Manager Waller, I'd just ask to fully understand, could I have the page number you're on?
Oh, the page number,
Yeah.
it's V8. This book is, has a,
Oh, my
Do you have a
word.
copy of this?
this does.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they should have a copy of
The
it.
This poor
district has,
gentleman that's waiting for this meeting to get over is like, my God, 1974.
Well, this is interesting. Sorry for this historical side trip. But anyways, we try to, the district tries to to solve problems, not just in the moment. As you heard earlier, the cities were talking about 17 years ago, we did a study, and they're still doing the best management practices. And so, same as this is not on the shelf to collect dust, although mine looks like it.
I was gonna say, I
We have a
don't
new one.
know.
Mine does look like it.
It's a
that
little
way.
dusty.
I was at the county city meeting. We had a very good turnout. That's wonderful. And with that, I don't have anything else to talk about.
With that, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to adjourn.
You need a second?
second that, yeah. Perfect.
So we're adjourned. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much.